Hi there. We're on day 236 of our Through the New Testament in 1 year. And today we're starting 7. We're going to do half of it. We'll just do a little update here, right? And yesterday he was talking about lawsuits among unbelievers. The day before he was talking about just stuff that went on, right? Immoral church members, church discipline. And he's continuing that. So today it's half of chapter 7. Principles of marriage, right? Now, Corinthians were very much like modern day America, okay? They practiced idolatry, sexual immorality, you know, they followed everybody at a whim, whoever had eloquent words, they would follow them around and totally forget that they were supposed to be following Christ. And it goes on today, too. Okay. Now, in response to the matters you wrote about, it is good for a man not to have relations with a woman. But because sexual immorality is so common, each man should have his own wife, and each woman should have her own husband. A husband should fulfill his marital responsibility to his wife, and likewise a wife to her husband. All right? A wife does not have the right over her own body, but her husband does. In the same way, a husband does not have the right over his own body, but his wife does. Do not deprive one another sexually, except when you agree for a time to devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again. Otherwise, Satan may tempt you because of your lack of self control. I say the following as a concession, not as a command. Okay? I wish that all people were just like me, but each has his own gift from God, one person in this way and another in that way. Right? I take it Paul was celibate, right? A word to the unmarried. I say to the unmarried and to widows, it is good for them if they remain as I am. But if they do not have self control, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with desire. Right? Doesn't say get a girlfriend, does he? He says marry, or a boyfriend. About married people. I command the married, not I, but the Lord. Right? A wife is not to leave her husband, but if she does, she must remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband, and a husband is not to leave his wife. But I, not the Lord, say to the rest, if any brother has an unbelieving wife, and she is willing to live with him, he must not leave her. Also, if any woman has an unbelieving husband, and he is willing to live with her, she must not leave her husband. For the unbelieving husband is set apart for God by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is set apart for God by the husband. Otherwise, your children would be corrupt, but now they are set apart for God. But if the unbeliever leaves, let him leave. All right? A brother or a sister is not bound in such cases. God has called you to live in peace. For you, wife, know how do you wow. For you, wife, how do you know whether you will save your husband? Or your husband, how do you know whether you will save your wife? Okay. So it says, and I mean, a lot of people believe absolutely no divorce for any reason whatsoever. But if an unbelieving husband leaves a believing wife, right? Paul says, let him go. Okay, let him go. And you are not bound by that. Hmm? Right. How do you know that you can lead them to the Lord, right? Okay, various situations of life. However, each each one must live his life in the situation the Lord has assigned when God called him. Oh, this is what I command in all the churches. Was anyone already circumcised when he was called? He should not he should not undo his circumcision. Was anyone called while uncircumcised? He should not get circumcised. Circumcision does not matter, and uncircumcision does not matter, but keeping God's commands does. Right? And the Jews did not want to hear that. Okay, they don't believe in Jesus. They follow the old law of Moses. Okay, Christ said to give you a new law. Right? Love one another. It's just that easy. Right? So there you go. That's the first half. That's tough. The second half tomorrow. Right? We're talking about. And look, and they just, I don't like it when they cut off. I mean, Okay, circumcision does not matter, and uncircumcision does not matter, but keeping God's commandments does. Right? And then they finish it by going, each person should remain in the life situation in which he was called. Were you called while a slave? It should not be a concern to you, but if you can become free, by all means take the opportunity, for he who is called by the Lord as a slave is the Lord's freedman. Otherwise, he who is called as a free man is Christ's slave. You were bought at a price. Do not become slaves of men. Brothers, each person should remain with God in whatever situation he was called. Interesting, right? A situation that'd make a good study by itself, right? So there you go. Let's take 236, I think it was, right? Yeah, 236. Right? So 130 days left. Wow, this year's going fast, isn't it? That's crazy. So there you go. Catch up on an email list and give us a like if you think about it, and we'll continue tomorrow. See you then.